So looking at the untuned percussion instruments in your pack, they fall into a variety of different categories. The first ones are things you can shake, are things like the maracas, which at first glance are fairly self-explanatory. If you're feeling clever with these ones, the beads inside them, you can actually control where they move, so you can control when they hit the front and the back, and instead of that up-down sound, you can play rhythms with them that way. You can also swirl them. Or use both together. If you want to get a really clear sound from these, you have to imagine that you're flicking custard off a spoon. That's how you get the cleanest sound from them. The little relative of the maracas is the egg shaker. Everyone loves these. They're really tactile. They're lovely. These quite often disappear because they're really easy to pop into a pocket or down the side of a chair. But they are absolutely super. They're really nice to play and easy to get a good sound from. One of the things that you can do to get really effective sounds is to adjust how much you're holding the shaker. So from here, you can really mess around with the sounds from it just by how much you put your hands around them. So those are the little egg shakers. So another instrument you can shake is the cabasa. It's got quite a gentle sound when you shake it. These come in a variety of sizes. You've got a small one like this in your pack. If you do have a larger one, just be careful because they're quite heavy and quite weighty, so be careful who's playing them. But as well as shaking this one, you can move the beads around the barrel, either by twisting, which gives quite a definite sound, or just by scraping them round. It's quite tactile again, this instrument. You can play it up arms and legs as well. So that's the cabasa. We also have tambourine. So you've got two different types of tambourine. You've got this one, the half moon, which we would call a rock tambourine, and these are great for sort of shaking and hitting. And you can be really gentle with them too. You can just explore the jingles. Get some quite gentle effects from them. If you want to be really proper rock, you can actually swing these ones from side to side. That doesn't work quite so well with the other tambourine, but this is your more standard tambourine. The nice thing about these ones is they've got the heads on them as well, so that opens up a whole different sound world because you can scrape and tap. I would recommend that you play these with hands rather than sticks, even though they've got a head on them that you could use a beater, because it is quite easy to break these heads, so they're better with hands. And you can do all the things you could do with that one, but as well, you've got this extra drum sound. So it's about experimenting and finding all the different ways you can to play them. One important thing about tambourines, if you want them to stay quiet, then hold them flat. If you hold them this way, there's always a danger that you're going to get some noise from them. So if you want them quiet, hold them flat. They also work really well on laps or on tables as well, so they're a very accessible instrument. The big drum here is the djembe drum. Yours, I think, is going to be a little bit smaller than this one, but there's the basic sound production is the same. You've got two different sounds on the djembe drum that you can use easily. The bass sound in the middle of the drum and the tone sound near the edge. And you can mix them together into really simple patterns. Again, very accessible and easy to make a sound from. You can also scrape and play with the fingers. So even for people with limited mobility, you can still get a sound from that. Normally, traditionally, you play them between your knees, but it's perfectly fine to tuck them under your arm as well, and this works better with the smaller ones. and some people might find it easier to play them that way up. The fish guiro, these are lovely. You can either scrape them or hit them. The important thing here is to go for a thinner stick. You don't want one of these big thick sticks on the guiro. Get a much better, more defined sound with a thinner stick. Also, if people are going to hit them, they're more likely to break them using one of the thick drumsticks. So, if you don't have a special guiro stick, then it's fine to just use one of the chime bar beaters instead and use the other end of it. And think about length of sound with this one. You could do long and short sounds. And be different sounds from different points as well. This is the weakest point here where the two holes are. That's the point that you don't want to be hitting or shaking. This is one of my favourites. I have a whole family of these. The frogs in your pack are lovely. They're always a real sort of talking point within a workshop, and when you have your stick, you'll see it's got a fat end and a thin end. You actually want to play with the fat end. You'll get a better sound from your frog with the fat end. Again, there isn't a right or wrong, but he's very effective. I'm sure this one's a he. He's very effective if you run up his back and then bop him on the nose. So I just rub the stick up his back and then bop him on the nose. These are lovely for having little conversations across the group. You can just hit them as well. All sorts of different sounds you can get from them. The drums you have in your pack are tambours, which are these. They look very much like a tambourine. The only difference is the tambourines have jingles, and generally the heads on the tambourines are thinner and tighter than the heads on the tambour drums. What that means is that while you can't play the tambourine with a stick without risking damaging it, you can use one of these wool beaters on the tambour drums to get a different sound from them. You can play them with your fingers, you can play them with your nails, or you can play them with the sticks. Now, one thing that's worth noting about all these drums and percussion instruments like this is that if you put them on a completely flat surface with no way for the sound to get out from underneath, they'll sound like this. The moment I pick it up, even if I rest it on my lap so it's still a little bit muffled, you can hear a bit more of the drum sound, and when I pick it up to play it, you get the full sound of the head and the drum. Again, there isn't a right or a wrong way, it's just being aware of the different sounds that you can make from the instrument. And again, with these ones, playing with the fingers or the hands. You get quite a lot of sound without having to use a stick, but if people find it easier to use a stick, that's fine, as long as it's got wool on top of it. Now, claves. The difference between claves and a pair of drumsticks is that these are not used to hit things with. These are an instrument in their own right, and they're the most important instrument in Cuban music. And you'll see there's a big difference in length, and there's a very big difference in sound. The claves are like a one-way system in Cuban music. They tell everybody which way up to play all their rhythms. Like lots of the other instruments, it's about vibrations. The more you allow them to vibrate and the more you allow the sound to vibrate, the fuller the sound you'll get. So here, I'm going to cut my hands right round them. You get a very dry sound. If I gradually release the amount I'm holding them, you'll hear the difference in the sound. So you can go from that sort of sound to a full sound like that with the claves. You can also experiment with squeezing them more and wiggling them together. We've come to my favourite instrument in your pack. A little castanet. I love these. They're really tactile, they're very, very easy to play. You can play them on a flat surface, and still get a good sound from them because they're still able to vibrate. Or if you play them in your hands, it comes very naturally the way to hold these and play these, and they can have a little chat. So they're the castanets.